Hi, it's Dean Gray with Andy Murphy with Mindset by Design.
Okay, Mindset by Design crew. So as always, you've had my awesome intro. So you know this guy is very special to me, and I am absolutely pumped to pick his brain. It's been far too long since we've hung out. How are you, Dean?
I'm doing good. Yeah, it's great to hear your voice and see if I got to make it down there to Panama soon.
Mate, it's do you know what? I've been away like about 8 months from Panama. I rented an apartment for a year, went back to the UK, got knee surgery, and I've literally just come back. It's changed so much in like 8 months, mate.
Wow.
It's crazy. It's crazy. And so your world, talking about change, right? Your world is, it blows my mind, mate. I've known you for about 10 years, mate. And it's been incredible to watch your growth and change, because I came to you, like I've connected you. The universe connected us, I should say. At a time in my life, I needed you. You know what I mean? And I needed your friendship too. It was like just being around your brain and mentorship. And I always talk about you to my girl, and always talk about you to a lot of people. And it's crazy that we're literally 10 years difference to the week in age. So right. it's mad in our birthday.
I'm 32 now, and he's 22.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I'm older, mate. That's what I'm saying, man. And it's amazing. I don't tell this story often, but I had a place to stay in Orange County. Nice place, all the rest of it, big house. Yet, I decided to sleep on your couch 5 days a week, just for a year and a half, basically. Wow. Just to hang out with you, just to hang out with the crew, just to hang out and be around the right people, man. So, first of all, bud, I thank you for that, mate. I appreciate that, you know? I really do. And watching you, like, was it like 5 years ago now that you really made this change into the app business? Was it about 5 years?
Yeah.
And I watched you poker chips in. Do you know what I mean? It was like there was no ifs or buts. There was no, let's see what we can do here. It was like, this is my vision. I know it's the right one. I don't know about the people, but I know it's the right vision. Right. And you just went everything in. What was it like to do that?
I would say that, first of all, anytime you have the courage to become irrelevant and shift careers, and my particular case was successful in one thing and then decided to make a complete radical change and redefine myself. And so for me, anytime I want to anchor a decision, like you and I've talked about, making a decision is one thing, anchoring it is another. Absolutely. So I made the decision to change where I lived, change the group of people I was hanging around, literally change the way I dressed. I basically stepped into the new character like a method actor would step into character, so I could anchor that decision. Now that was the logical side. The emotional side, it was a constant just, I have to do this, you can do it, stay positive, right down to the basics of all basics of jump off the cliff and build your wings on the way down. Now I had logically thought through things financially to make sure there's a difference between taking a risk and being at risk. So I
love that.
Yeah, I didn't foolishly, so I did the logical thinking first. And then once that was done, I had to dive in and handle the emotions that come after the logic.
Right. And how was that?
That's the part of, I just say there's no way around it. There's highs and lows. There's times when you feel great. It's like surfing. And then there's times when you're getting pounded by a set of waves that come in. And then you just got, and what's awkward about nature is when the waves hit and life hits you, that is not the time where you can't paddle. You got to keep paddling and get out past the break. Otherwise, you're just going to get crushed. So what happens to a lot of people is when life's hitting them, they're like, whoa, I wasn't expecting this. Time out. There's no time out. You got to get past the. And so I would just say through sports or music or nature is you have to learn that there's a safety zone and there's a danger zone. And when you're in the danger zone, You got to get past it.
Interesting. Interesting. I love that. I really love that, man. You just got to keep paddling.
Yeah.
Got to keep, there's no other choice, right? You're in.
Yeah. Well, it's like I'm, at one point people asked, I remember when I recovered from a very young, when I was in my 20s and got married and recovered from a 1-year marriage. Even then though, people were like, well, how'd you do it as a single dad? And how'd you recover? And they were looking for all the positive, inspirational terms of how you recovered. And I just didn't relate to that. I was like, what do you mean how? It was like I was in the water with my spouse and my child, a 2-year-old, and then suddenly a shark came up and ate one of us. How did you survive? What do you mean inspiration? There was blood in the water. I had a 2-year-old. I swam my butt off to get out of the water. There was no inspiration. It was get out of the water.
Interesting.
Not saying that's a positive way to go about it. Just saying.
No, it doesn't matter though, man, because I know so many people can relate, because that's the BS that gets blasted around social media. That's the BS that gets blasted around the glimpses on Instagram, the little snapshot of this perfect life that doesn't exist, right? And we'll get into your tribe building and why you're one of the top, if not the top in the world for the futurism around this thing. And we'll talk about all that because I'm fascinated even more, bud. But I just to go back to that point, because obviously, and that's what people are probably quite shocked, maybe to realize that someone at the level that you're performing is still on the roller coaster of totally controlling this every day. I know, because that's who I work with, and I see it at every type of level, and it doesn't stop because we are just human beings. And we're reacting to old genetics, we're reacting to old patterns and old chemicals, and we constantly have to fine-tune our brains. So what do you do, man? Like when you're under that, like, because I've watched you perform under like some insane circumstances, like this project has to be done then. Okay, well, Dean's not sleeping for the next month. Dean's like 3 hours sleep and he's on fire again. And that was always inspirational to me. I would say,
Andy, that there's times when you can be in flow, and there's times when you can recover, and then there's times when you have to put your helmet on and just grind. And that's life, as you mentioned. And when those times hit, how I have the confidence to keep going is basic training from sports, music, or even weight training, where you just realize life is life. And if I just do what I'm supposed to do and have some confidence, I know if I go to the gym, I'm going to see results. That's how the universe works. Now, while everyone's freaking out, I just have to have the confidence that the law of compensation or manifestation, however you want to look at it, when the law of compensation says if you go to the gym 100 days in a row, it doesn't matter if you deserve it or if you're the right person or what your values are or if you've got haters or likers. Bottom line is, the law of compensation says 100 days in the gym, despite your self-talk, is going to get you some results. So I believed more in that than I even did the circumstances around me or myself.
That's huge. The law of compensation, meaning like what Arnold Schwarzenegger talks about, reps, right? Yep. Got to put the reps in. And so do you feel that people like it in business? Because what you've built so fast, man, is absolutely shocking to me. I love it. And it's inspirational, but it happens so fast. Didn't seem to you happen so fast. Was there someone watching on the outside that was happening so fast? So do you believe that people hit the pain, and instead of understanding that pain and pushing off it, they use that as a threshold and an excuse, and then bounce back into those old patterns of behavior? And it gives them an excuse, not to expand, not to live their full themselves like you are, right?
Let me think about that. I would say that a lot of people are trying to be in balance when they're not supposed to be in balance. There's seasons in life, and there's 4 seasons through the year. Nature works that way. There's morning, afternoon, sunset, sunrise. There's a flow. And I would say part of that flow though is when you go to work. And so it's like you need to add the East Coast mentality to the West Coast enlightenment. And it's the yin and the yang. It's not one or the other. So I would say when people hit those moments, they always underestimate the classic thing you've heard, how much they can actually get done in a short period of time.
Right.
And the standard of excellence, and then have the confidence that it sounds corny even saying it, but you're just willing to outwork other people. It's the thing you hear from Will Smith or any speaker is the one thing it comes down to at the end of the day, who's going to be competing with me at this level of detail? You just go all in, and not to freak everybody out, because you're not freaked out. You're not going to do this forever. You can run up a hill if you know there's a flat spot, and then you typically use your health and fitness. And so what I do is I will first of all, it's not even considered a grind if you're going up the hill, if work is not what you're doing, but it's who you are. It's basically, I'm chasing my dream. And everybody would say, you're working so hard. And what I would hear is, you sure are following your passion 100%.
Right.
So number one, if you're in alignment, it doesn't feel like work. Second, you replenish with fitness, meditation, and then hopefully a lover. You've got somebody in your life that it's, you're willing to go grind, and then who's going to go to dinner with me? Who's going to, this sounds bad, but whether you're successful single or a couple, is who's the tasty treat at the end of the night? It's like dessert.
But yeah, I love it, dude. I love it. It's true, man.
And so that can be, because you need that. Your body needs that reward and that replenishment. And that can be great conversation. It can be a lover. It can be fitness. It can be meditation. Whatever that tasty treat is to you. It's like a Scooby snack, right? And, but we all do, right?
Yeah.
So, and then you have fun. Chase your dream. Get your fitness on. And then have some sort of treat. And
that's the reward mechanism. That's the serotonin release, right? And I suppose that I love that, man. Tasty treat. That's like the balance. I've seen you have quite a few tasty treats too. You said it, buddy. You said it. It's balance. Yeah. I haven't seen too many world champion athletes that are balanced, right? You haven't seen too many billionaires that are balanced.
And I even think it's just not ignoring our human nature of our basic needs and things that do replenish us. Sometimes that can be time with your children. If you happen to have a 2-year-old or a 4-year-old, and
right.
It's whatever's going to replenish you at that age or phase of life you're in. That replenishment for you potentially, depending on what you're going through, could be time at your church. It could be meditation. It could be a date night. Again, it's all about whatever it is for you.
Right. And that's beautiful, because that brings it back to the point that you said before about alignment. Right. Because that alignment, that's you being authentic. Because what the fuck else you doing? You know what I mean? It's like, that's the thing. People like beat themselves, but what else are you doing?
Well, do you remember the, what's his name? Oh my gosh, Daryl Ostetter?
No.
The gentleman that's in Costa Rica. Anyways, he had a great line once that, as a fellow entrepreneur who's chasing your dream, and forget entrepreneur, just say someone who's full in alignment. Right. Made a comment to me that usually I make to other people. I hadn't said it quite like this, but when it was said back to me, I was like, oh, good one. Because I happened to be rocking through the weekend. He's like, all right, we got to connect on this. I'm changing a major thing in my country, in Costa Rica. I'm like, absolutely, let's get together on Monday, not the weekend. And he got back with one line: weekend. That's a term slaves use, not people who are living their dreams. And I was like, oh,
damn. Okay, I'll see you Saturday.
But isn't that true? The people who use the word weekend in context as if something's, that's not.
What's a weekend?
Right.
It's just another day, right? It's Depends what you're doing. And that goes, I always talk about procrastination, and people come to me, not at the highest level, well, it's sometimes at the highest level, because they get in a comfort zone of financial comfort zone. And then it's hard to, because they're not feeling pain, to push off. Like we talked about, like Mike Tyson years ago, it's hard to be an animal or a world champion like that as a fighter when you're sleeping in silk sheets, right? So we have to look at a different drive. But people talk about procrastination, and to me, I don't believe in it. Like what you said, I just believe it's misalignment. And when,
yes.
and then you don't have to be motivated because it's what you do.
And I would say you're hitting on the classic pain versus pleasure tactic of motivation, which is you're either going to move because you're in pain, which is temporary, but then the other times when you'll move, you mentioned people who are doing well financially. Well, great. So if finances is not your pain, great. But the next thing now is going to be, what's the passion, the new dream that's pulling you versus pushing you? And there's a difference between being called and being driven. And I've worked in my life with both of those. And I think a lot of times in personal development, we try to find the ultimate answer versus realizing life is more like 4 gears in a car. First gear is what you have to put the car in when you're at a dead stop and you're in financial repair and recovery. And then and that works. And then as you start gaining traction, what's your next motivation? Second gear. You got to shift to second gear. And if you don't, you're not going to blow up. And then you got to get the third gear. And fourth gear is what you do when you want to go from 70 miles an hour to 100 miles an hour. And then what people do is they transition. They think, I remember when I used to be in first gear. Yeah, that was horrible. What really works is fourth gear. No, the answer is all of them, because at any given point, you're going to hit a stoplight. And guess what? What's going to work at a stoplight is first gear, not fourth gear. So I call it shift. So it's like, look, depending on what on where you're at on the journey, like a car, one of those 4 gears is the perfect motivation. One of those might be fear and being driven to get out of something. And then in fourth gear, you might be being called because you're not financially, you're not in survival mode. Great. But it's not one or the other. It's different motivations. One motivation might be children and legacy. So, so it depends. It all depends on the phase of life you're in, what you're going through. Find the gear that works for you and stop thinking there's one answer.
That's profound, brother. That is though, man. That's profound. Because people, like, they constantly search for safety. They're constantly searching for security. But I think people forget that we're all going to die. You know what I mean? It's like there is a limit. There is an end to the game. And we're going to get into VRS in a little bit because the gamification. But there is an end to the game, man. So what is your end to the game? Because you're saying it's like you're at this stage, you're taking it to this level. Nothing's forever because you can't continue at this pace forever because you'd explode. So what is the mission here?
Okay, well, 2 things. One, we were talking about the different types of motivation or drivers along your journey. As far as target you're going after, which is what's your end target. My end target it was to get to a place where I had the finances and the health and the finances, and to unentangle myself with other things in life so that I could be freed up, that when I would meet a project or a person or a passion that I wanted to follow, I was unentangled and I was prepared to be able to chase those passions. So my end target was just freedom financially and mentally and entanglement, because just because you're free financially doesn't mean you're free entanglement wise. It's just one of those entanglements. So that's where I've always wanted to go. You've heard me joke about it. It's your classic kid who grew up reading superhero comics. I still want to be Batman. I want to have the kind of money and freedom where I can be Bruce Wayne and a philanthropist and make a difference and and then have the other side where I'm not Captain America. I'm not always sweet. I want to be able to go beat up bad people and put on the other suit.
And when we talk about like the socialization period and the imprint and all of that, I wonder what you were doing at those ages at 7 to 14.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just, to me, and I love problem solving. I love curious people.
Yeah.
You know, people who are curious, no matter how much success they've had or not success. When someone's curious, it's a great person. They're always fun conversations and great dinners with curious people, because I think curious people have the ability to see beauty in multiple things, not just what they're doing.
Because
right?
because they're not seeing it. They're trying to see it through everyone's eyes. They're trying to see it through, because the technician or like what you're doing right now, we'll get into it because I'm fascinated, man. And it's like what you're doing is such high detail. It's such high detail that people from the outside are probably looking in going, oh yeah, he's got another Rolls Royce. And then very nice, mate. Rolls Royce, he's got another Rolls Royce, right? He likes shiny stuff. Oh, Dean must be this type of person. And then when you get to know Dean, well, there's no ego with you. It's just, you're on a mission. It's not. There's no ego there. You just like shiny things, mate. Shiny things are good, right? But what the difference is.
Yes. So like, this is a great example of the tasty treat thing. So in my personal situation the last few years, I made a decision to not be so social, because I had to focus and go into the bat cave or the suit or the lair, and I had to go build this new vision and dream, and I couldn't get distracted. Well, I didn't buy any new clothes. I wear the same stuff every day. I've been 100% focused, and I have been chasing my dream. The one little treat I gave myself was a nice car on the weekends to go out. Yeah. But one of the reasons I chose that, though, is once you ask people what their intentions are, is I like when I pull up to a Starbucks or anything, watching the looks on the little kids that are 20 years old or 17 or 16. They freak out and they all wave, and it's weird. To me, it's psychology of, they don't even probably know the name of the car, but they literally like, and they look and they get excited. That's dream building for these kids. And so then I'll do things. I park somewhere and I'll let the parents get in the car with their kids, and their kids are gawking and looking at it. So I love taking the opportunity as they're like taking photos, going, well, go ahead and get in the car. And the parents are like, are you sure? And then when they're like, wow. And of course, as a young child, Mom, I wish we were this cool, or why don't we have one? Well, I'm waiting for that line to go, oh, by the way, guys, just so you know, your parents would probably have one of these if they weren't spending all their money taking care of you right now. Don't forget that.
Isn't that true, man?
And then the parents are usually like,
yeah.
Because I'm looking to use that credibility to empower other people. So again, it always comes down to, do you use power or money or credibility or fame? Those are all multiple different things. Power is different than fame. Credibility doesn't mean it's the same as fame, or money. Do you use those things to separate, or do you use them to empower other people and help them dream? And so it all depends on what you're using it for. And so that's and that's where, there's things you can do. So that's my little reward for me.
That's beautiful, man. And the story, and I didn't know that story behind it. I didn't, because it's always you goes back to, and this is what people don't know about you, and I do. All you do all day is try to help. Like you do, man. You've helped me out so much so many times when you didn't need to. I've come into the country and literally been in a mess because someone's let me down, ripped me off somewhere in the world. It was an old pattern. It's gone. And then you'd just be like, there's your room. Yeah. There's your bed. Do what you want.
That's because, like probably some people listening to this, I found that it's uncommon, but it's also common. Meaning out of millions of people, there might be a lot of folks who don't understand this. But for those that run in our circles, we do have like minds find each other. Yeah. When you grow up with an unstable family life like I did, or no safe place to land, I learned early on I had to create my own family. And so I like to make sure that anybody who's an emerging talent, who's chasing a dream, I need to have, one of my goals is a home or a compound big enough to where there's always 2 or 3 places where someone can come in, recover for 2 or 3 months, get on their feet, get going. And I just found that you can do that for people that are recovering addicts or in severe pain. I don't relate to that one that much just because bless the people who do that. That's awesome. But that's more of dealing with the dark traits, and someone needs to do that. I want to provide that same concept though for the entrepreneurs and the dreamers, because we get hit hard too. And sometimes if we just had 3 months with no rent, good environment, and good friends, we just need to get our feet back on the ground. And so me getting around emerging talent keeps me young, keeps me energized, keeps me thinking. It's like a giant R&D facility, research and development. So, and then of course, as you know, I love working hard, but toward evening time, the candles need to come out, the food needs to come out, the vibe needs to change.
Totally. I always say, it's like, even last night I was talking about you because I was excited to connect with you today, because it's like we just moved into this new apartment. It's beautiful, but it's chaos. It's like right in the middle of the old Spanish town. And we're playing with the lighting, right? I'm getting the lighting right at nighttime. Steph's like, what are you doing? I say, no, you don't understand. You don't understand, right? It's all about the environment. It's all about the lighting. It's all about the effects to create the emotion that you want.
Yeah. Well,
you showed me that.
Of course. And of course, a lot of people wonder why sometimes the lighting's all set up. They're like, Dean, no one's coming over. Why is the backyard all lit up? I go, it's for me. I'm turning me on. If anyone else wants to join.
It's for me. Yeah. I'm working hard, not just for everyone, also for me.
So by the way, so what you're hitting on right now is the next jump of, we've used the word gamification. Gamification is a term that the tech industry sort of captured in the last decade about how you incentivize or move people into things and get them to do repeated behavior. Gamification is a new word, but it's been around since the dawn of time. It's what the Romans used. It's what to get people in coliseums. It's how people play games. It's how the airlines have frequent flyer miles. So it's nothing new, but that's techie gamification. But unfortunately, a lot of people use gamification now. It's what's done to you without you knowing it. And if you're not the one doing it by design, then by default, someone else is gamifying your brain. So you often get addicted subtly to someone else's rules. So gamification can get a negative context because now that people have learned it, they use it.
Right.
The better one is beyond gamification is value reinforcement systems. And it's called VRS. And so value reinforcement means, what if you had the ability to create a better mousetrap and put yourself in it? So an example, that's what we do with our platforms is we build community platforms for people building companies, causes, organizations, people who want to make a difference. They need a platform on where they can train, track, and reward their community and stay connected. But what's happened is, I want to say it's been 3 generations, 3 versions of community building. The first generation was, hi, come to my business, my law firm, come to my chiropractic office, come to my coliseum and watch me do a concert, come to my gym where I can work you out, my dojo, my martial arts. Community building first generation was all around gathering around a physical location to create community on a regular basis. Now that takes a lot of work and time, as you know, to build a community and a business, and there's a ton of work done. But if you're successful with that, now you've got your community. Second generation is, oh, and by the way, when you leave the concert, oh, and by the way, when you leave my dojo, oh, and by the way, when you leave my personal development course, and my seminar, my summit, by the way, don't forget to follow me on social. None of us realized you just took all your hard work, like the mafia, and you just gave all your people to someone else, and that someone else is about to make more money off your tribe than you. And that someone else is about to gamify your people. And you literally took all your hard work and gave it to social. Well, the reason we did it is we didn't have any other options. None of us a multi-million-dollar platform to refer them to other than social.
Right.
So that was second generation community building was, oh, by the way, follow me on social. Now the big trend is everyone's waking up going, oh gosh, I want to refer people to my own private network because I'm not competing with Facebook or Instagram for a the community is gathering around martial arts, around mindset, around anything. So I had to create a solution where what if everyone can have a multi-million-dollar platform to refer people to that was theirs, you know, for $3 or $5 grand. And suddenly they had an entire Facebook overnight just for them where they could train, track, and reward their people.
Amazing.
So, but more importantly with that community is you have to have the ability to create behaviors that are specific to your community, which goes to VRS. Because if you can't create behaviors like in the kid app, we have one for cheerleaders.
Yeah.
Watch this for VRS. So for all the kids that are 6 years old, 19-year-old girls or guys who have the attention span of a hiccup on social media, that are taking pictures of their duck face selfie.
My niece is a nightmare. My niece is a nightmare.
Okay. So watch this. Could you give them the same recognition that the endorphin rush that they've been getting off that to do things that really matter? So we were able to create a platform where, okay, in this particular one for young athletes, we broke up behaviors in 3 categories. Be a better athlete, and when they push the button, up pops a menu of work out, go to the gym, stretch, things, behaviors that matter, athlete. Next button, be a better person. And you push that button, do your homework, give your mom a compliment, make your bed, read. And the third category was make the world a better place. Start teaching young people to take their eyes off themselves. So when you open that button, stop a bully, give compliments, make friends outside your network, don't be a mean girl. Well, we have 3 categories: be a better athlete, be a better person, make the world a better place. If you have a platform where you could design behaviors that matter to you, what would happen? Well, it's 20,000 kids now daily on their things, blowing it up. They've got kids that are having 200 days in a row of giving their mom compliments and tracking it. And sponsors are coming and going, oh my gosh, you've got this little girl who's right now stopped a bully or recycled, and she's been willing to go into her phone for 30 days in a row and pick up trash and photo verify it. Well, then companies like Puma or Nike are going, whoa, when that happens, could you please have it pop up a badge that says, you just picked up trash 100 days in a row. Thanks for making the world a better place. Free pass to Disneyland. So what is that? Reward behaviors that matter. But in order to reward behaviors that matter, that's subjective because we all have different values. So each community has to have the ability to create the behaviors that they think matters. And if you don't have the ability to create them, then so you have to create the behavior in order to reward the behavior. And that's what we can't do on social. So that's what we provided with our company. And because you've heard me make this comment, often in today's world, it's the limelight that we're programmed to seek. But unfortunately, not only is it what we're programmed to seek, it's what we get rewarded for. I do X and I get 1,000 likes. So the issue is, but we all know it's the behaviors behind the scene that we often do in the dark that really matter. Acts of courage, things that no one sees, going to the gym, making a hard decision. So how do you reward how do you take the invisible things that really matter and reward them as much as the things that are often trivial that are being rewarded? And so that was our goal. So now you look at it, okay, well, what if you're the Boy Scouts or Girl Scouts, or what if you're a martial art gym, or you're the Navy SEALs, or any community? What if it's mindset, mindset by design? Great, whatever community it is, you know the behaviors that you want to drive and reward. That's called VRS. But the minute you turn people over to a private Facebook page or an Instagram, you by default are only rewarding what they felt.
It's profound. I remember talking. Yeah, I remember you. Like, it's profound, mate, and we'll talk about that more in a sec. I just remember when this whole thing was born.
Yeah.
I remember you sitting in the treehouse. The treehouse, by the way, was an epic place. That's where I learned about environments. And I remember you building the pitch decks. I remember them evolving. It's beautiful to see when it's to get to this stage. And you've solved something, because I say about this every day. Social media now is just noise. I don't even understand what Instagram is. Facebook, I don't even understand it anymore. It's just.
I can help you with this. Here's our joke. Now that we did, well, this leads to a great interview that a reporter came in and did with a 12-year-old and a 9-year-old girl on our Cheer app for young athletes. And the reporter, unfortunately, did what reporters are trained to do today. They pre-frame negatives or a narrative. So they don't even really ask questions. They set you up with a presupposition. And of course, a 9 and 12-year-old don't understand that someone's about to, they're mentally. So this reporter came in and said, "Hi, little girls. I don't understand. Why would you want another app when you already have Facebook, Instagram, and Snapchat? Don't you have app fatigue? Do you really think you need another place to go? I mean, I don't understand. Why would you girls be excited about this?" Well, of course, that was a horrible pre-frame.
Of course.
But this little girl somehow didn't affect her. And I was thinking, what's she going to say?
Right.
She goes, "Well, Facebook is where I talk to my grandparents and my parents, and I stay connected with my family. That's what I use Facebook for. But it's getting a little bit scary because today all people do is argue about politics on Facebook." She goes, "Snapchat is where I talk to my friends. Instagram is where I share pictures of my life, my best moments. But there's no place besides this app where I get rewarded for what matters. When I do my homework, or I make my bed, or I'm working hard to be an athlete, if someone really down the road wants to know what type of kid I really am," she really said this, she goes, "they'd have to go to the Cheer app. It's the only one that shows you all the behaviors that matter."
Wow.
And I was like, go! I'm like, she's hired.
She's hired forever.
But what I've learned is we often minimize young people thinking they don't get things. Right. She was smart enough, and so are these 9-year-olds. They're smart enough to know the behaviors that really matter. And it's this simple. There was just never a button for them to push to say that they gave a compliment. She's like, they're not, kids aren't dumb. People aren't dumb. But it wasn't set up to reward the right things. And so now we can show you through our data science department that if given the option, young athletes, to track being better athletes, better people, and making the world a better place, they actually do more of personal development and making the world a better place than they do even their own athletic goals. So it's pretty interesting. Now, again, you can take that to any community. Right. And so that was my goal, is some of you, a lot of your friends have incredible communities and they have incredible goals and they have lofty visions to change the world, but they don't have the right vehicle to scale and do it. So I went from being one of those people to wanting to empower those people.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. So anyways, that's what VRS is.
It's amazing, mate. It's profound. It solves a problem. And what it does is it takes your power back. Because unfortunately, like you say, the algorithms in social media is designed for one reason. It's to create dopamine hits and, like you say, chemical responses to what they want you to do. So you are a chick, do some squats, show your ass, you get extra likes, right? If you do something, but what the hell's that? That's not building a society that we want. That's not, well, maybe it isn't, but it's not building a society that we want that's going to evolve and grow.
Well, what happened is like anything, social media, I believe, did something great initially. It did allow us to be social, but then we started building these communities and we thought, well, obviously the next progression is how do I make money off this? And it just wasn't set up for that initially. And so now And people are making money on social media, but they're not making a lot of money. So here's the last line, if it helps you, is think of it like a young rock star. Your first tour, one or two tours as you're traveling the world, you're just happy people know your name, you're making 10 grand a month, you're signing autographs. That's like a young person who has enough people following them on social media, they start making their first sponsorships. They're just excited, and they should be. But about the third tour, or once you grow big enough past 50 to 100 grand, you realize, wait a minute, I don't own the label. I'm getting screwed over. So to give you a comparison, 1 million people on Instagram is like being a millionaire monopoly. It's cute, but it ain't real and it's not yours. So here's a comparison. 5,000 people on your own platform where you can create the behaviors that matter and reward them, and sponsors can work with you more directly. 5,000 people on your own platform that do something once a month is worth about $1 million. You have any, because you own it. 50,000 people is worth 4 or 5 million. 100,000 people, or let's just jump to 200. 200,000 people doing something once a month. People are getting valuations all day long of 60 to 70 million. Now, if they're doing something once a day, upwards to $500 million. And here's why. Because it would take that much money to go advertise to millions of people to get a couple 100,000 people to buy your product or pay attention to you one time, let alone do something every day. So it's about what would it cost to go get people. Minimize small tribes are worth massive money. And that's what led to the ad apocalypse, the censorship, the demonetization, everyone on YouTube and Instagram getting a lot of their businesses. They realized they weren't in charge, they weren't in control.
Right.
So what's happened is that major brands have pulled back and said, wait a minute, when people go to social media, they really are there to be social. They're not there to engage with Coca-Cola or a major brand.
Yes, absolutely, 100%.
But if I go to the Iron Man app, or I go to the martial art community,
right,
I'm there now to be curated. Where's all the resources that make sense for martial arts? Who's the best food? You're a trust agent. So now it's organic, it makes sense, it's natural. And data can be shared in a polite way without them scraping it and violating your rules. Meaning, you know, so bottom line is that small communities are worth big money. And that's what Tim Ferriss did on a long time ago when he tried telling people with the 4-hour work week, you get 1,000 super fans.
1,000, yeah.
Why are you not a millionaire? Now,
because you don't know how to use it. You don't know what to do with it.
And you've mistakenly, we call it inner authority versus outer authority. Just like mentally, let alone physically, you've given all your authority to a third-party platform because you didn't have an alternative. So 1,000 people that want to be trained, tracked, or have information curated, people want to save time. And they're going to go to someone that they trust on a particular topic. And on that topic, they want resources, behaviors, and things. And if you just curate that, and that's what Steve Jobs is so famous on, one of his concepts was, when the world invented Napster and everyone thought music was going to be free forever.
Right.
He said, you're wrong. Because when you go to Napster, you never know what you're going to get as far as quality. And if you will just save people time, and they know 100% of the time when they download this for 99 cents, they will pay for it. So same thing here. If I want to learn about mindset, I can Google anything in the world for free.
Absolutely.
I don't need your summit, your package, your programs. I want to learn about NLP, I can Google it. I want to learn about health, I can Google it. But why would I pay for it? Because Andy is going to curate all the stuff that I respect in one place, and Andy's going to save me time. And that now allows Andy to be a curator versus all the pressure of being a content monkey where you've got to have dancing bears and new content every week.
Constantly.
Because the other problem is, if I overwhelm Andy with becoming a content monkey, the reality is you're going to burn out. And the minute someone who's mastering a craft is overwhelmed, the world suffers because your beauty's now gone because you're buried in crap.
The artistry. Yeah.
So that's anyways, that was the goal. And it was, as you know, I did 300 interviews with pastors, military leaders, thought leaders, speakers.
Right.
Globally. I didn't invent this. This was a curation of if you're going to build a community globally,
right,
what do you need to do it where you don't burn out?
right.
And so this is really just a lot of my friends doing tons of interviews, coming up with, okay, we need this solution. We need it for the people.
Gotcha.
And we also need it for the influencer, because the influencer is going to burn out otherwise.
Yes, that's what happens. And that's what happens. That's why I'm looking at every model and all the rest of it, right? So it's profound, buddy. And where can people connect with this? What's the next stage for people? Because there's a lot of information that you've blasted out, and people are going to watch this interview about 8 times. So like, what's the next step for them? Because I know that everyone is going to be going, yes, social media is just noise now. Yes, the ads that we were spending are just not getting the same results. Yes, the groups that we're going into that we were running before, well, guess what? They're not getting as much engagement. Why? Because there's 8 billion groups. Yeah. And so everyone's going to be in the same situation. And so what I love about what you have always been is that futurist, that looking at what the next bleeding edge that's about to emerge. And because everything that's taught in social media courses, internet marketing, it's all done. It's all the past.
So that's yes, what you're hitting on is, I was in the live event business. And as you know, I was fortunate to have a community of 30 million globally and a couple 100,000 that would attend live events. So I wouldn't even say back then I wasn't a futurist. I was just someone who was living a problem. And I was fortunate at such a young age to have a Well, when that happened, when I learned that I had to solve this problem, I also then realized if I'm going to change careers and get out of the live event coaching business into equipping coaches, I need to jump way ahead. I couldn't jump into internet marketing. Why? Because it had already been mastered. I'd have been everybody else's student forever. So I had to go to the next generation. But to answer your question, you just go to skylab.world. It's not .com, .world, skylab.world. And anyone there can take a look at what we're doing, is how we're helping brands, causes, and influencers build and maintain their tribes. We act as their technology partner. And the 2 things people might be interested in: one, they might want to use our solutions, our technology, or they might not. But whether they like it, but mainly we're engagement specialists to drive behavior. So there's all kinds of great content on monetizing the value of a tribe, how to set your community up, how to scale, how to grow. So they might just like some resources there. They can also download the Skylab app on any Android or iOS device. Remember, that's just a company app. We are a white label. There is no, you never go to a Skylab app. That's just our employee one, but you can go take a look at some of the features. And that's the ultimate app for influencers online. But if people want to play around or ask questions, they're more than welcome to. And we're always looking for certain companies that we will donate things to that have causes that we believe in.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful.
Yeah. We've done that now for some different organizations.
Nice.
Because the bottom line to us is, no one cares if they have a platform. They only care if they get results and move the needle.
That's it. No one cares how. They just care it's done. That's it, man.
So that's the gist of what we do. But like I said, congrats on what you're doing. And
it's time to be an ambassador for the next thing, because I've been for your stuff, because I've been talking about, one, what you're doing for years, but secondly, I've been screaming and shouting about social media like radically for the past 18 months. People are probably sick of me shouting about it. And so it's the next evolution. And you're doing it, you're nailing it, you're smashing it. And whether people realize it or not, it's what's happening. It's what's going to happen. So you're either in now or you're not.
Yeah. What I like to say is, if you're going to make it rain, just own a bucket. So keep making it rain with email, internet marketing, social media. Don't be scared. You're already doing that, but be smart enough to realize, if it's raining, just add a bucket, let it start to fill up, because as the bucket fills up enough, you won't have that pressure of making it rain. So it's not one or the other, because we're never going to compete with social. The line is, discover me on social. Awesome. But you know what? People today want to be micro influencers. They don't just want to be fans or customers. So discover me on social. But if you want to join my community and become a micro influencer and help me actually meet this mission or help us get a gold album as a musician, download our app. People love it. So it's not one or the other. Social media still has a great thing out there for being. Just stop trying to use something that was designed to be social to have causes and so or movements.
Profound, buddy.
Okay. All right.
Thank you so much for everything, man. I really appreciate it. And yeah, thank you for coming on the show.
Of course. Thanks, Andy. Okay. Thank you.